Hello, I'm Dr. James Dilley, experimental archaeologist and flint knapper. I'm here in North Wales exploring one of the most important axe production landscapes in Britain. Wales is a land of natural beauty, legends and some cracking archaeology. The hills and mountains of North Wales are no exception and have been the focus of writers and early antiquarians hoping to uncover evidence of distant people who inhabited this landscape. Stone is one of the better surviving materials from prehistory. While leather, wood and fabric must have been commonplace thousands of years ago, it's only under very special circumstances that it survives to the present day. Those surviving stone monuments are often our only visible link to prehistory, and it's a very normal problem to still not know what those monuments were used for. Stone wasn't just used for making structures, however, it was also used for making tools. And there's a stone here in this landscape in North Wales that was quarried, worked, and made into a tool that we would recognise today. The early Neolithic was a time of huge change across what would be Europe. The arrival of farming brought with it new requirements of open land to plant crops. To achieve that, people needed to fell large areas of woodland which had previously been the hunting grounds of Mesolithic hunter-gatherers. To fell large trees, you can either cut them down or you can kill them by removing their bark, but it's a slow process. So to clear areas of woodland quickly, you need dependable tools to do the job. Above the little town of Penmaenmawr, which means head of great stone in Welsh, industrial quarrying for building material has been ongoing since the 1830s. Long before that relatively modern time, people came here to quarry stone too, but not for building houses. On the slopes of Graig Lwyd, Neolithic people found a very suitable rock for making axe heads. The stone those Neolithic people found is sometimes known as a Microdiorite or augite granoporphyry. It's a fine-grained igneous rock formed by volcanic activity around 444 to 485 million years ago during the Ordovician period. Neolithic people chose it because of its high silica content, which means it can be flaked like flint, which is a stone we more commonly associate with stone tools. Once a large chunk of the Graig Lwyd microdiorite was detached from a rocky outcrop, it could be flaked using hammerstones to a rough-out stage. This would then be taken elsewhere to be finished into a flaked axe head, which would take less than an hour. People have been finding examples of these flaked axe heads for many years in the surrounding landscape, not just here at Graig Lwyd. And in the early 20th century, archaeologists tried to find the source of all of these axe heads. They found knapping floors of thousands of flakes from the axe making process. Once flaking had been finished, the axe heads had to go through one more production stage before they could be fitted into a wooden handle. Like many other types of Neolithic stone axe, they were ground smooth on an abrasive rock like sandstone. So why bother going to all of that effort? Surely just a flaked axe head that takes less than an hour to make is enough. Ground and polished axes have been found in their hundreds across the UK, made using a wide variety of stone materials. For many years, scholars believed this time-consuming stage added purely aesthetic value to the axes. I, like most people, can agree that it definitely adds a degree of visual quality and tactility, but it's not the primary reason for grinding an axe smooth. Let's start with the blade. The flaked axe has a jagged blade, while the polished axe has a straight blade. In use, a flaked axe will tear through wood, while a polished axe with its straight blade will cut deeply. So we can already see that it will be a more efficient tool. But why bother polishing the whole thing, not just the blade? Well, the clue to that answer comes from the earliest stages in the production process. During the knapping process, I strike the edge of the stone to direct shock across the surface. The shock will focus on the flake scars as it travels across the surface. With a flaked axe head, the edge is striking a tree in a very similar fashion to when I'm flaking it. Now the tree is much softer than my hammerstones, but shock still travels through the axe head. In a fine-grained silica-rich rock, stress can start to build up on some of these flake scars from repeated strikes as an axe head. Microfractures can grow into full-blown cracks as the axe head continues to be used, which can cause it to break. But by polishing off all of those flake scars, all of that repeated shock must travel over the surface evenly. There's no flake ridges or scars for all of that stress to localise. By investing that time into grinding an axe head smooth, you improve its lifespan many-fold. But why not just flake a new one each time? Because you'd have to break 30 or 40 before that grinding and polishing effort became worthwhile. But that would only really work if you actually lived at the source of the rock, and we know that Neolithic people moved around a great deal. Further evidence of this travelling and the value of Graig Lwyd axes can be found in their distribution. Examples have been found as far away as Kent and West Lothian in Scotland, and here at Avebury in Wiltshire, around 200 miles away from the source at Penmaenmawr, examples were found by Alexander Keeler during excavations in the surrounding area. And with these axes so many miles away from the source, it was clearly worth using whatever means necessary to make them last as long as possible.
Penmaenmawr Museum recently acquired a large collection of artefacts that had been found and recorded by a local man, David Jones. As all the objects he found had location data, his legacy will be used in archaeology research for many years to come and help better understand the prehistoric archaeology of North Wales.
I've worked this stone many times to make replica axes. There's even one over there. I can see on some of these roughouts that David Jones collected problems that knappers faced where the material wasn't particularly forgiving, but for many of them I can see successes. And you have to ask yourself why some of these roughouts were abandoned. Some of them are oddly shaped. Some of them are a bit too thick and would take many extra hours to grind. And it's amazing as a napper to have that connection to people who worked in the same way 5,500 years ago.
I'd highly recommend visiting the museum, which is located in the old post office. It houses a large collection of artefacts found in the nearby area, including some nationally important objects. It provides an excellent setting for learning more about a place that is steeped in history, as there can't be many places that have seen almost constant quarrying from the Stone Age through to the present day.
We take great pride in the videos produced for the Ancient Craft channel. We would really love to continue making more videos with new tutorials, site visits, artifact showcases, and of course, nap time. We have a Patreon account where you can support us in our efforts. There are competitions and replica artifact giveaways. Check it out here. And thank you to those who have already signed up. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already.